two neighbors who live in mansions on the ocean are now battling in court, and the fight includes the theme song from the 1960s sitcom Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island was one of the most loved shows on TV, full of laughter, adventure, and the strange little island that felt like a perfect escape. But behind the smiles and silly moments, a shocking truth lurked. The show was facing problems that most viewers never knew. Creative fights, tricky ratings, and hidden pressures slowly pushed it toward cancellation. Why did such a fun and famous show end so suddenly? Could the cast and crew have done something to save it? Stay with us as we uncover the real story behind why Gilligan's Island got canceled. The show that captured hearts. Gilligan's Island is one of the most famous American television shows of all time. It first aired in 1964 and was created by Sherwood Schwartz. The show followed the lives of 7 people who became stranded on an uncharted island after a storm sank their boat, the SS Minnow. The 7 characters included Gilligan, the clumsy first mate, the skipper, the boat's captain, Thurston Howell III and his wife, Lovey, Ginger, the glamorous movie star, Marian, the sweet farm girl, and the professor, who always tried to solve problems using science. Each character had a unique personality, and together they created endless comedy on the island. The main idea of the show was simple. It combined humor, adventure, and the problem-solving efforts of the castaways. Every episode had the same basic theme: the group tried to survive on the island while also finding ways to escape. Despite the repetitive setup, audiences loved the chemistry between the characters and the funny situations they got into. The show was light, simple, and easy for families to enjoy. Even though the show was very popular with viewers, critics did not always like it. Some thought the comedy was too simple or silly. Despite this, it became a cultural phenomenon. Fans enjoyed the absurdity of the situations and the interactions between the characters. The show's influence extended beyond television. There were comic books, board games, lunchboxes, and other merchandise based on Gilligan's Island. Ratings were good at the start, but the show faced challenges from the very beginning. Television in the 1960s was highly competitive. Shows had to perform well in Nielsen ratings to survive. While Gilligan's Island attracted a loyal audience, the network was concerned about how well it competed against other programs in its time slot. The balance between critical reception, fan love, and network expectations was delicate. One reason the show stood out was its combination of comedy and escapism. Audiences could forget about daily life and enjoy the fun adventures of 7 people trying to survive on an island. The setting allowed for endless creativity and plots. The ocean, tropical weather, and mysterious island features made every episode feel different, even if the overall structure was the same. However, behind the scenes, the production faced serious challenges. The tight shooting schedule, budget limits, and constant pressure to produce new episodes created stress for the cast and crew. Despite these difficulties, the team continued to make episodes that entertained millions of viewers. Gilligan's Island became a favorite for many families. Its appeal was simple but powerful. The show reminded viewers of friendship, problem-solving, and humor in everyday challenges. Its colorful characters and memorable settings left a lasting impression on pop culture. Even today, the show is recognized as a classic example of American television comedy. Millions loved it, but ratings told a different story. Could popularity alone save Gilligan's Island? Find out in the next chapter. The ratings roller coaster. Television shows live and fade by ratings. In the 1960s, Nielsen ratings were the main way networks measured a show's success. Gilligan's Island had a mixed performance in these ratings. Some seasons performed very well, while others struggled to compete against other programs airing at the same time. Even though many people loved the show, the numbers did not always reflect its popularity accurately. The show started on CBS and aired on Thursday nights. At first, it had a strong following. Families enjoyed watching it after dinner, and children especially loved the funny characters. Episodes had simple plots that were easy to follow, and the tropical island setting made viewers curious about what would happen next. These factors helped the show gain attention. Despite this, the show faced tough competition. Other popular programs in the same time slot attracted viewers who might have otherwise watched Gilligan's Island. Even a loyal audience was not always enough to keep the ratings high. Nielsen ratings only measured a sample of households, which meant that the actual number of fans might have been higher than the reported numbers. Another factor was the audience demographic. Gilligan's Island appealed mostly to families and younger viewers. Adults without children sometimes did not watch the show regularly. Networks preferred shows that appealed to a broader audience, including higher-income households. This meant that even if the show was entertaining and popular with certain groups, it might not meet the network's expectations for advertising revenue. The show's ratings also fluctuated during its 3-season run. Some episodes were more successful because of interesting plots or guest stars. Other episodes underperformed, and this affected how the network viewed the show's overall performance. Networks often looked for consistency rather than occasional spikes in viewership. Even when ratings were solid, the network considered production costs. Filming on location for some scenes, creating sets that looked like a tropical island, and paying the cast added up. The network had to weigh whether the profits from advertising matched the costs of producing the show. In some cases, it did not, which made the decision to cancel easier. Critics also influenced ratings indirectly. Negative reviews could discourage new viewers from tuning in. Some critics called the show too silly or repetitive, even though viewers found it entertaining. This created tension between what the audience enjoyed and what the network thought would attract more viewers. Ratings were only the beginning. Behind the smiles and laughter, the cast and crew were facing storms of their own. So, what really happened behind the camera? Let's find out. Behind the camera, creative conflicts and budget battles. Making a television show is never easy, and Gilligan's Island was no exception. Behind the laughter and sunny scenes, the production faced constant challenges. One of the main problems was creative disagreements. Sherwood Schwartz, the show's creator, had clear ideas about the show's direction, but producers, network executives, and writers sometimes disagreed. Decisions about scripts, storylines, and even character roles often caused tension. These disagreements slowed down production and created stress for everyone involved. Budget problems also affected the show. Even though the series looked like a tropical paradise, most of the sets were built in a studio in California. Creating an island that felt real required money for props, decorations, costumes, and special effects. The network gave the production a limited budget, which forced the team to work with fewer resources than they wanted. Sometimes props broke or costumes were reused, which caused frustration on set. The cast also experienced pressure. They worked long hours under the hot studio lights, performing the same scenes multiple times. Gilligan's character, played by Bob Denver, often had physical comedy scenes that required precise timing. The skipper, played by Alan Hale Jr., had to react to these situations naturally. These performances were tiring and added to the challenges of production. Cast salaries were another source of tension. Some actors wanted higher pay as the show became popular, but budgets were tight. Negotiations caused delays in shooting, and in some cases, conflicts arose between cast members. Even small disagreements could grow larger due to the stress of long working hours and the pressure to deliver episodes on time. Network interference also played a role. CBS executives sometimes wanted changes to the scripts or characters to attract more viewers. They were especially concerned about appealing to certain demographics that were more profitable for advertisers. These demands could conflict with the creative vision of the show's team, making it difficult to produce episodes as originally intended. Even minor production mistakes caused problems. Scenes sometimes had to be res-hot because props fell, sets collapsed, or actors made mistakes. These errors were costly and added stress to an already tight schedule. Despite these challenges, the cast and crew worked hard to make each episode entertaining. Their dedication helped the show succeed, even under difficult conditions. The combination of creative conflicts, budget limitations, and network demands made producing Gilligan's Island a constant challenge. On the surface, the show looked fun and carefree, but behind the camera, the cast and crew faced serious problems. The pressures of production added to the difficulties caused by fluctuating ratings and audience expectations. The cameras kept rolling, but the cast was trapped in more than just comedy. But, how did fame become a trap to these stars? The curse of typecasting. When fame becomes a trap, typecasting is when an actor becomes so identified with one role that it affects the rest of their career. For the cast of Gilligan's Island, this was a major problem. Audiences loved them as their characters, but casting directors often only considered them for similar roles. This limited opportunities and made it hard for the actors to grow in their careers. Bob Denver, who played Gilligan, was especially affected. His clumsy, lovable persona became so well known that many producers could not imagine him in other roles. Alan Hale Jr., the skipper, also faced similar challenges. Even minor cast members, like Dawn Wells, who played Marion, and Tina Louise, who played Ginger, found it difficult to escape their on-screen images. This created frustration for the actors and tension behind the scenes. Typecasting also influenced the show's perception. Critics sometimes dismissed the program as simple or childish because the actors were associated with very specific traits. Even when episodes were creative, the public and press often focused on the characters' repeated behaviors rather than the quality of the writing or performances. The actors' personal ambitions were also affected. Some wanted to pursue theater, movies, or other television roles, but opportunities were limited. For women on the show, typecasting was even more restrictive. Tina Louise's glamorous image made it difficult for her to play ordinary roles, while Dawn Wells' wholesome persona led to similar limitations. Fame brought attention, but it was a double-edged sword. While the actors enjoyed recognition and fan support, the constant association with their island characters prevented career growth. Social events, interviews, and public appearances often emphasized their roles on Gilligan's Island rather than their personal talents or other abilities. Typecasting also had financial consequences. Because the actors were limited in their career options, some struggled to find high-paying roles after the show ended. This added pressure on the cast to continue working on projects connected to Gilligan's Island, such as spin-offs, guest appearances, or reunion specials. Despite these challenges, the cast remained professional and committed to their roles. Their performances helped the show succeed and contributed to its lasting popularity. The cast was stuck on the island, and the network had its own hidden agenda. Network politics, CBS versus ABC, and the ratings. WARS television is not only about actors and scripts, it is also about networks and money. For Gilligan's Island, network politics played a major role in its eventual cancellation. The show aired on CBS during its 3-season run. While it had a loyal audience, the network executives were constantly thinking about profits, advertising, and competition. Ratings were important, but networks also focused on demographics, sponsors, and rival programs. CBS had other popular shows airing at the same time, and executives needed to make sure the network's overall lineup performed well. They were under pressure from advertisers who wanted programs that attracted viewers with more disposable income. Even though families loved Gilligan's Island, advertisers often preferred shows aimed at adults with higher incomes. This created tension between audience enjoyment and financial strategy. Competition was fierce. ABC and NBC were also airing programs designed to attract similar audiences. When Gilligan's Island aired, other networks had shows that sometimes performed better in Nielsen ratings. The network executives monitored these numbers closely, comparing Gilligan's Island to rivals. Even small dips in ratings could make executives nervous about the show's long-term viability. Time slot changes also caused problems. CBS sometimes moved the show to different nights or times to try to improve performance. These shifts confused viewers and affected consistency. Loyal fans might miss an episode simply because it aired at a new time, which could lower ratings further. The network hoped these changes would increase viewership, but they often had the opposite effect. Sponsors also influenced decisions. In the 1960s, television advertising was crucial for revenue. Sponsors wanted programs that aligned with their brand image and reached target audiences effectively. CBS needed to ensure that Gilligan's Island satisfied these sponsors. If the show was popular but not attracting the right demographic, executives might consider replacing it with a program that could deliver better results for advertiser. Millions of fans was vulnerable if it did not meet the network's financial goals or strategic plans. Executives had the final say, and their priorities were often based on numbers, sponsorships, and market positioning rather than audience enjoyment. Ultimately, network politics created invisible barriers for the show. Decisions made in boardrooms far from the sunny island sets shaped the future of the castaways. Even when everything seemed perfect on screen, the network held the power to cancel a program and send it into syndication. Could these changes have also played a role in the show's cancellation? Ratings and boardroom battles were only part of the story. When the world outside the island changed, could Gilligan's Island survive the tides? Cultural shifts and changing television does not exist in isolation. It reflects society, trends, and cultural changes. In the mid to late 1960s, the United States was experiencing major social transformations. The counterculture movement, protests, and changes in music, fashion, and values were reshaping the entertainment landscape. Audiences began looking for shows that addressed real-life issues, social awareness, or more sophisticated humor. These shifts affected lighthearted comedies like Gilligan's Island. Escapist shows were still popular with children and families, but many adults sought programming that was more relevant to their lives. Shows like The Twilight Zone and The Andy Griffith Show tackled topics that appealed to different age groups and interests. In contrast, Gilligan's Island offered repetitive plots in a fantasy setting that sometimes seemed disconnected from current events. This created a gap between audience expectations and the network's offerings. The counterculture movement brought significant changes to television content. Young adults were becoming more influential in shaping trends. They preferred shows that reflected their experiences, opinions, and concerns. While Gilligan's Island remained entertaining, it did not engage with these emerging themes. Networks noticed these changes and started developing programs to capture younger, more socially conscious viewers. Advertising trends also shifted. Sponsors began targeting younger, more urban audiences with disposable income. A simple family comedy, while popular, was less appealing to these advertisers compared to shows that attracted more adult viewers. Even if the show remained fun and humorous, it became less profitable in the changing television economy. Cultural changes also affected critical reception. Critics increasingly favored shows with deeper themes, clever writing, or social relevance. Although audiences enjoyed the comedy, critics labeled it as childish or repetitive. Negative reviews, combined with shifting tastes, created an environment where the show seemed outdated, even if millions continued to watch. Another factor was the evolution of television technology and programming. Color TV was becoming more widespread, and viewers expected visually engaging content. While Gilligan's Island adapted to color filming in later seasons, other shows pushed boundaries with innovative sets, special effects, and cinematography. This raised audience expectations and made the show's simple production seem less impressive. Even pop culture trends outside television affected the show's perception. Music, fashion, and movies reflected the social changes of the time. Young audiences were increasingly drawn to rock bands, modern movies, and shows that captured the energy of the era. A lighthearted island sitcom struggled to compete with these new cultural forces. All of these factors combined to create a perfect storm. While the show had a devoted fan base, the cultural shift made networks question whether it could remain relevant. Ratings, network politics, creative tensions, and changing audience tastes all contributed to the decision to cancel Gilligan's Island. The world outside the island was changing fast. Could Gilligan's Island survive the storm of society itself, or was cancellation inevitable? How Gilligan's Island became immortal. Even though Gilligan's Island ended after 3 seasons, its life did not stop with the final episode. One of the most important factors in the show's lasting fame was syndication. Syndication allowed networks across the United States to air reruns repeatedly. Shows that had only a few seasons could reach millions more viewers than during their original broadcasts. For Gilligan's Island, reruns began in the late 1960s and became a staple on local television stations. Children who were too young to watch the original series discovered it for the first time, and adults who had enjoyed it originally could relive the episodes they loved. Syndication helped create multi-generational fans. Families could watch the show together, and grandparents could share the adventures of Gilligan and the castaways with their grandchildren. Merchandise also played a big role in keeping the show alive. Board games, puzzles, comic books, and toys allowed fans to interact with the characters outside of the television screen. These products made the show a part of daily life, not just weekend or weekday viewing. The iconic characters, the Skipper, Gilligan, Mary Ann, Ginger, the Professor, and the Howls, became symbols that were easy to remember. Kids could imitate their favorite scenes, and families could act out the adventures on the island at home. This interaction deepened the attachment fans felt toward the show, turning it into more than just a television program. Another factor was fan conventions and community engagement. Beginning in the 1970s, fans started gathering to celebrate their love for the show. These conventions featured cast appearances, costume contests, and panel discussions about episodes, favorite moments, and behind-the-scenes stories. These events kept the spirit of the show alive and gave fans the chance to connect with each other. For many, the castaways became almost like friends.